Welcome into 2-for-1 Drafts. Austin Gayle here with Mike Renner. Very excited. It's New Year's Eve. This is the last 2-for-1 Drafts podcast of the 2019 calendar year. We're going into 2020 hot, though. We got a bunch of good things planned for today. Two major segments. Mike dropped a fantastic article on PFF.com. Perfect draft fits for the 20 non-playoff teams. A ton of fun information in there. I think it's always mock draft season and draft fit season is a good time because you think about the potential of where your team could go with these players and all that stuff. But a lot of it is kind of just fairy tale stuff and a good opportunity to show the types of players that these teams should be
That is the thing, though. There is something to the actual type of player that, one, they need, and two, that a team seems to go for. Mm-hmm. Teams do have GMs, will have their own sort of what they value highly, sort of their past history can predict future picks and what they value. And then also, not every edge defender is created the same. Some teams, like the Oakland Raiders last year, needed a 6 technique. So they were going to draft Cleveland Farrell. They weren't going to draft Brian Burns. That just wasn't going to be an option for them because that's not the type of player they needed. So it's important to know stuff like that, and that's why we're doing fits for these teams that don't have any playoff games to look forward to.
Yep. So draft fits will be a nice segment, and then we'll also review some of the top performers from the college football playoff. A ton of big names there. Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson scored 4 touchdowns, and Isaiah Simmons had a very nice interception. He's a very impressive player. But let's go ahead and get back to those draft fits, though. Starting with number 1, Joe Burrow of the Cincinnati Bengals, or Joe Burrow of LSU going to Cincinnati Bengals. That would one of the bigger fits and something that will get mocked to Cincinnati all day long.
Yeah, I mean he's tied with Kyler Murray now for the highest grade we've ever given, and Kyler Murray got bumped up to some degree with his rushing grade. So tied for the highest grade we've ever given. Likely, I'd say, going to break that. I don't know. Clemson's defense very good, but if he just has any sort of game like he's had all year, Joe Burrow, he's going to break the single season record for PFF grade. I can basically, at this point, throw out anything we've seen before that. He's a different quarterback this year than he was in 2018, than he was at Ohio State. Everyone matures at their own rate, and all of a sudden Joe Burrow is playing football that, like I said, they're starting quarterbacks in the NFL couldn't go to LSU right now and play as good as Joe Burrow is playing.
Wow.
That's just there's a high end that some guys are capable of, some guys aren't. Joe Burrow has shown he is capable of that. Lock, surefire, number 1 pick, whatever. This one's easy.
I keep on getting more and more attracted to Joe Burrow's play outside of structure. It's insane.
I know where you're going with that.
Yeah, fair. I kind of led with a different.
I mean, he does have a nice set of hair.
True. No, I'm not saying he's not attractive here, but let's talk about that play out of structure is such an interesting conversation because I think you can get lost in it and get really excited about it because those are the plays that end up on the highlight reels to the next level. But you continue to go back and look at his numbers inside of structure from a clean pocket within 3 seconds to throw. He's one of the most accurate quarterbacks. No, the most accurate quarterback in college football. He doesn't put the ball in harm's way, pushes the ball downfield, high average depth of target. We're running out of question marks to find for this guy.
That game did a very good job, the Oklahoma LSU game, and obviously we'll talk about this later, but I guess we'll touch on it right now. They did a very good job of highlighting the difference between a guy who his out-of-structure play is the primary play, Jalen Hurts. That is his primary sort of production in that offense versus a guy who has it as a bonus to what he can do in the pocket in Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, unbelievable in the pocket. And then, if nothing's there, he can also make something happen with his, extend the play and get something outside of structure. Jalen Hurts basically just... If it was coming outside of structure. There was not much happening inside of that offense.
How bad did Jalen Hurts look in that game? That was a very tough performance.
I'm not surprised.
The other player here, and these are going to be 2-player fits for each team. One guy they'll draft early in the draft, and another guy they'll draft later. Jack Driscoll of Auburn. He's the UMass transfer that went to Auburn. Graded really well this year, actually, in the SEC. An 86.7 PFF pass blocking grade. Didn't fare as well in the run as he did at UMass, but still a good player. One of those guys you get on day 2.
Yeah, I'm very surprised that Prince Tagovailoa got the Senior Bowl invite and Driscoll didn't. To me, Driscoll's a much better prospect at this point. Has, like I said, multiple years, only 8 of pass blocking production at Auburn, at UMass. Only 8 pressures allowed all last season. He handled Jonathan Greenard, the guy who shot up draft boards, the Florida edge defender, as well as anyone handled Jonathan Greenard all season long. Basically didn't give up a single pressure to him in that game. Fantastic performance from him. He's not going to wow you. He's maybe not even 300 pounds, a little on the slighter side, but has good feet. And they need Bengals need one tackle help, two guys who can help right away. And I think in the mid-rounds, if you're not going at right there at the top, if you're going third, fourth round offensive tackle, Driscoll's about as good as you can get in pass pro.
There you go. Let's go to number 2, Washington Redskins. I think this pick is obvious. If the Cincinnati Bengals do the right thing and bring in Joe Burrow at number 1 overall, Chase Young at number 2 is a no-brainer selection for the Washington Redskins. They take him at 2. And as for the later pick, Calvin Throckmorton, the Oregon offensive lineman who's been very good this year, very good for a long time. He has a ton of snaps at Oregon where he's playing at a high level. Both of those players in the trenches helping Dwayne Haskins and company kind of move forward in 2020.
Yeah, they have to go O-line, but you can't just reach for O-line at 2 when Chase Young's sitting there on the board.
Not even Andrew Thomas is better than Chase Young at this point.
I get that you've gone D-line for 3 straight years. Sweat, Allen, Payne. You're loaded up on picks in that D-line. Hasn't really hit. That's not an excuse to pass on Chase Young. He is a generational type of edge defender. Broke the record for PFF pass rushing grade. But the later pick, I think, is another one who 4-year starter in Calvin Throckmorton, a guy who can add probably at guard or center for them right away. Probably guard. He would end up for the Redskins. Plays tackle now for Oregon, but again, a guy who's NFL ready, can come in, immediately try to shore up that offensive line, and with not having a second-round pick in the 3rd or 4th round. So that sort of guy.
An 89.5 PFF pass blocking grade for Throckmorton this year. He's earned an 87+ PFF pass blocking grade each of the last 3 years. Impressive as a run blocker as well. You have to love the experience. Talk about a guy that can contribute right away. Throckmorton is exactly that, and I think the Redskins, like the Bengals, if you're drafted in top 2, you need help right away, and I think these two players, both of them, help as soon as possible. Number 3, we're going to the Detroit Lions. This one's interesting because some are looking at wide receiver potentially. There's other certain Detroit Lions faithful wanting to go a different direction than cornerback, but Jeffrey Okudah of Ohio State is incredible. I think this fit makes a ton of sense, and playing man coverage in Matt Patricia's scheme, it would be huge. And then the second guy you have here is Terrell Lewis of Alabama, a pass rusher for them, a little bit of an older guy, but with some athleticism for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to hear anyone complaining about Jeffrey Okudah getting back to the Detroit Lions, because I'm going to do it again and again and again until they let the world know they're going somewhere else with that pick, because it makes too much sense. If Matt Patricia's staying on with the amount of man coverage they play, it requires you to have good man corners. If you don't, like I said, I think I said this on last week's pod, man coverage is a weak link sort of proposition. You are only as good as your worst man coverage corner, because that guy is the one who gets attacked every time. So you need as many as you can have if you're playing a lot of man coverage. Okudah, fantastic in man coverage. The best man cover corner in this class. It just makes too much sense, and we've said it before, said it again. Corner, the second most valuable position on the football field. They would be silly to go anywhere else. You can fake a pass rush. You can blitz more next year and get after the passer. You don't need to reach for an edge defender here. Get your cornerback.
And I think I don't imagine these top 3 picks changing a ton in future mock drafts. I think Joe Burrow's obvious, Chase Young, and then number 3, how does Matt Patricia and that Detroit Lions defense pass on a talent like Jeffrey Okudah, former 5-star prospect that has great ball production this year, has been great at the catch point, forcing completions. I think he had 4 in the college football playoff, the first round of the college football playoff. Yeah, he's been a very impressive game in and game out, and I think Matt Patricia would jump at the opportunity to bring in a cornerback like Okudah. And as for Terrell Lewis, I think this is a guy that could surprise you on day 2, that has flashed at times. He's obviously battled injuries as well at Alabama, but he's flashed at times as a pass rusher. I think he's worth a swing of the bat on day 2.
Yes, Terrell Lewis, so round 2, that's where you go get your edge defender. I think someone will fall out of the first round that will be a worthwhile will be an upgrade for them at the edge, because, a lot of guys could be an upgrade for them at the edge with how bad they've been this year. And Lewis, the guy we've been on for a while, saw it early in his career at Alabama freshman year, had a very good grade, almost 90 overall grade way back then on a limited number of snaps, but multiple injuries since then. Finally got healthy this year, 85.8 pass rushing grade, 48 pressures, has the length, size, explosiveness to play the edge in the NFL. I think that would be a nice fit for them. And the wrap is where I would address that pass rushing woes.
Let's go to number 4, the New York Giants. They bring in Jedrick Wills of Alabama, an explosive run-blocking offensive tackle for Alabama, and a guy that also has played well in pass protection. I think he gets better at the next level. You're in love with his raw tools and his development there. And then as for the later round guy, it's going to be Tyler Johnson of Minnesota, who's hated by some but liked by others. This is a guy that creates separation game in and game out. He's not the fastest guy. He's not the biggest guy, but he does a very good job as a route runner. Great releases. I think his drops are more focused drops, not necessarily a problem that you would see in the NFL, blossoming into something as significant issue, similar to like an Amari Cooper who doesn't necessarily attack the ball poorly, but instead has focused drops. I think Tyler Johnson, a guy if you can get in the second round, is going to have an immediate impact on your team. I think this Jedrick Wills and Tyler Johnson put Daniel Jones in so much of a better place in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, they just can't keep Nate Solder's contract on the books. I mean, you have was it Nick Gates on the other side of right tackle. You can keep him there, but Nate Solder, $20+ million cap hit is absurd with how poorly he's played for them. So he's probably gone. And I would just assume he'd be gone. Jedrick Wills steps in there. He's improved even as the season's gone along. Only one pressure allowed in his last 5 games here this year. Like you said, his combine numbers could be absurd, like what's Lane Johnson-esque. I would argue this year. And then Tyler Johnson will fall. I bet he falls out of the first round because he's not going to test that great athletically. He doesn't have the raw physical tools that some of these other guys have, but top 10 back-to-back years in yards per route nationally. He's produced. I mean, the production's off the charts. The route running is off the charts. Good after the catch, good before the catch.
What's interesting, too, is he's played a lot more in the slot this year, and I think he's given some more free releases in Minnesota's offense. But similar to Justin Jefferson, well, I know we'll get to him later. I was looking, in 2018, played a little bit more outside. You saw a lot more of his releases, and then this year kind of kicked into the slot. I think to kind of let Rashad Bateman flourish, similar to how to let Jamar Chase flourish at LSU. However,
are you saying flourish?
Flourish.
But not flourish.
But Tyler Johnson, I think still, like you said, the production is there, and I think you have to fall in love with his separation ability. It's hard not to.
Yeah, the shake at the line of scrimmage is valuable. Like that sort of innate, you have it or you don't, in my opinion.
Let's go to the number 5 team here. The Miami Dolphins, they take Tua Tagovailoa with the early pick and then bring in Trey Adams of Washington, a guy that you probably would see fall out of the first round. Both of these players help Miami very quickly if Tua Tagovailoa can be healthy.
That's Tua, the health, whatever. We're going to be tracking that all throughout the spring. But clean bill of health to the Miami Dolphins, that's a no-brainer. Trey Adams, though, is an interesting one because the Dolphins have so much draft capital. They're in that sort of rare position where they can take those risks on some maybe health concerns guys, on some red flag sort of guys, some high ceiling, maybe low floor sort of guys. Trey Adams looks like one of those guys. 2 years ago, he would have been a first rounder if he didn't have ACL and then a neck injury, back-to-back seasons derailed with injury. Came back this year, and we've documented his struggles. Well, just got murdered by Chase Young in the bowl game last year, murdered by Bradley and Ney in that Utah game this year. Does not come without on-field concerns, but again, only a handful of guys, 6'8", with movement skills like that. And Adams, the red flags will drop him out of the first, maybe drop him out of the second. Dolphins, with all their draft capital, should be in a prime position to pick up a guy like that who, if fully healthy, if he is all the way back, could be one of their best offensive linemen, or not the best from day one.
Yeah. Let's go to number 6, Los Angeles Chargers. They bring in an offensive lineman, desperately need offensive line help. The Los Angeles Chargers. Anyone could be good for them here. You have Andrew Thomas of Georgia going early, and then late, Leki Fotu of Utah, which is an interesting pick. Leki Fotu, I think a lot of draft communities kind of fall in love with this guy. He's a big dude, very good against the run, could potentially push the pocket at the next level, but it's never going to be his strength, in my opinion, as a pass rusher. But a run defender first, and a very good one at that. That has value if you can do that down in, down out. If you can two gap effectively like Leki Fotu probably can, he has value. Both of those guys in the trenches. Dan Feeney and Forrest Lamp have not panned out. They are still struggling to find offensive line talent in Los Angeles. And Sam Tevi's not good. Trey Pipkins has played okay, but I would say bad if we had to get binary with it.
Literally anyone at number 6. Just go top offense tackle available, because it's such a good offense tackle class. I don't think you can miss. But the Fotu one's a little more interesting because I do think nose tackle, they're just so soft still up the middle of that defense. Just someone to hold the point. Like I think once you get to the 3rd, 4th round, you're not going to find a lot of pass rushing defensive tackles. At that point, just find someone who can hold the point of attack in the run game, and let your sort of linebackers, you can then let you have smaller, more athletic linebackers who can play coverage, or else you're just going to get killed day in and day out if you still have Brandon Mabane or the, whatever's left of Brandon Mabane playing at center position.
He's been playing there for a while now. Yeah. How old is Brandon Mabane? I mean, that's just insane. Let's go to number 7, Carolina Panthers. They bring in another just monster of the of the midway here. Derek Brown of Auburn, a little bit different than Lecky Fotu in that he can rush the passer a bit. He's played well down the stretch specifically. And then you also have interior offensive lineman Matt Hennessy of Temple going to them in the later rounds. Another double trenches pick for the Carolina Panthers. I think this one's interesting.
Yeah, so pair him, Derek Brown, with Kawan Short. They've been looking for the guy. McCoy was good this year, but then obviously Short had the torn, rotator cuff on IR all season long. I think Dontari Poe with his contract right now, he's probably gone. So, and obviously Gerald McCoy was on a one-year deal. So someone to pair with Kawan Short, keep that defensive line of strength, and again, free up Luke Kuechly and those guys to do, who's the other one there?
Shaq
Thompson to do what they do best, chase and run, that sort of thing. So I think that one makes too much sense there in the top 10. And then, like I said, Matt Hennessy, Temple center, only allowed 14 pressures in 3 years as a starter there. Matt Paradis, center this year. A little buyer's remorse, 47 pressures.
What happened? He played really well in 2018 and just struggled significantly.
He had that broken leg, just didn't seem like he came back from it. Just so that one's concerning. He might just be off. They might just cut him at this point. So any sort of depth in the interior, though, would go a long way for the Panthers.
Love these next two picks for the Arizona Cardinals. Great fits. Jerry Jeudy of Alabama and also Lucas Niang of TCU, the offensive tackle. This is interesting players for both. I think Jerry Jeudy instantly adds to this offense. I think Larry Fitzgerald comes back for another year. This guy is never going to stop. But then also you need to continue to add speed. You need speed and explosive ability for this Cardinals offense. And for as long as they keep Andy Isabella on the bench for no reason, bring in Jerry Jeudy to throw him into the lineup instantly. I think he could be an instant impact player. And Lucas Niang, a developmental prospect, like you say in the article, but also a guy that can play in a very moving offense, a guy that offense that runs a ton of screens against light personnel and stuff.
So they're going to be in a great spot to get an offensive tackle there, Arizona Cardinals, if they want. But in my opinion, a wide receiver, you get a true number when you get Jeudy or you get Lamb into that offense with Kyler Murray, could pay off far more dividends.
Why aren't we thinking Lamb here?
I think Judy's a better one in terms of his slot ability and speed down the football field. Can do a lot in that offense with how much forward wide they run and how much that stress that just could put on safety. So I think Judy's just a little better fit for Arizona. But, I mean, you can't go wrong with either, to be honest. So I think Jeudy would be excellent there. You get your number one wide receiver right off the bat. It offers something very different from what Larry Fitzgerald is in the slot right now. And then another offensive lineman who's athletic. Lucas Niang had the ankle injury or maybe it might have been shoulder, I can't remember at this point, who ended his season here early. But he's raw. You look at his pass stats and you're like, God, those are ugly as hell. But he gets the job done. Still, he needs to get those a little probably up to speed. But he has the raw tools. 84.8 pass blocking grade. A couple years ago, 86.3 this past season. He's done it. As much as he hasn't had necessarily the best coaching probably in his past sets, he's gotten the job done, which is encouraging.
I think if the Arizona Cardinals have an opportunity at 8 to put Kyler Murray and CeeDee Lamb back on the same team, I think they pull the trigger on Lamb. I could see that chemistry just pulling them in. I mean,
fair.
I'm not saying the Jerry Jeudy pick would be bad, but I could totally see Arizona.
It sounds like you're saying the Jerry Jeudy pick would be bad.
No, I'm not saying it would be bad. I'm just saying I think the Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray on the team, pulls the trigger on bringing that duo back together. And CeeDee Lamb has been very special this year. Let's go to number 9. If Derek Brown does not go early in the draft and they get him at 9, this is going to go to the Jacksonville Jaguars for Derek Brown of Auburn. And then the later pick, Juwan Jennings, the guy that has been crazy after the catch. He's forcing a ton of missed tackles, not in the way that you'd expect. I think guys just kind of bounce off him. He's an interesting guy in that I don't know how much I love his separation ability, and he's a little bit of a bigger guy.
Plays a lot of slot, too.
He plays a lot of slot, but really good after the catch has value.
And that's the thing. It's like he's so damn good after the catch that I think he's going to. And the thing I love was he was a quarterback coming out. He was a quarterback recruit at Tennessee, dual threat quarterback, moved to wide receiver. And now all of a sudden, like you see him in the open field, and he looks like a quarterback he has that sort of shake that it's tough to teach guys to be able to break tackles like that. 29 broken tackles on 57 catches.
Deontay Johnson, former quarterback. Tyler Johnson, former quarterback. There's a lot of that.
It's because you put your best, the guy who's the athlete, the alpha guy in your high school. Just you throw him at QB and let him spin. So I'm a big fan of Juwan Jennings. I think he's probably borderline. He's probably a second rounder for us right at the moment. He might push his way up with a strong performance at the Senior Bowl. But then Derek Brown, I think you want to keep strength in that defense. You have that strong defensive line. Keep reloading in it. Derek Brown makes too much sense in terms of they just are so soft against the run. And it's another thing of get the guy who can play run defense so you can keep those smaller linebackers behind him and keep them free, because that's so important to not have them. if your linebackers are worrying about their run fits with weak defensive tackles in front of them, they're going to get torched against play action passes. Like if they're worried about that, if you're not worried about it, you're not going to get torched against play action passes as much.
Makes sense. Go to number 10, Cleveland Browns. I bet you they did not think they'd be drafting at 10 in the 2020 draft after what they did in the offseason, but here we are. They bring in Alex Leatherwood of Alabama, the other Alabama offensive tackle, a guy that doesn't get mocked in the first round as often as Jedrick Wills of late, but still a guy that's played very well, specifically in pass protection. And as for the later pick, a guy that is a little bit fun to watch. I'll drop fun to watch. Hamza Nasruddin of FSU, the safety there. I think him coming into that secondary makes sense too.
Yeah, so Alex Leatherwood in this offensive tackle class, it kind of reminds, so you go back to that the offensive tackle class with Laramie Tunsil, Ronnie Stanley, Jack Conklin, was that 16? Where all those guys came out, and they're all right at the top. Taylor Decker as well, I think it was. He reminds me of the Stanley of that class, where it's like he doesn't absolutely blow guys off the line of scrimmage like some of the other guys in this class, but his pass sets are so smooth. He's just such a natural athlete that I think I don't want to say upside, but I think he has the best tools to succeed in pass pro at the next level of all of these guys. Some guys might be freaker athletes, but he's just so smooth. Only 10 pressures allowed all year long, and that's why going to the Browns, they need a little bit of pass pro at the moment, if you haven't heard or been living under a rock over the last few months. And then the later one, Hamza Nasruddin, basically their safety position outside Damaris Randall, filling in for Jabril Peppers, was pretty cheeks this year. Was not good. Jermaine Whitehead, there's a reason why he didn't even stick with the Packers. So it's been bad for them. He can play the box role, can even fill in a nickel linebacker.
He's probably best suited for the box role. He's a big dude.
Yeah.
Let's go to the New York Jets. They finally pulled the trigger on CeeDee Lamb in this perfect draft fit. Man, Sam Darnold, CeeDee Lamb, Adam Gase, the quarterback whisperer. I really do think we're starting to see this really come together. No, but CeeDee Lamb is such a good player, and I can't wait. I would love to see him go with a young quarterback, similar if it was Kyler Murray or Sam Darnold, because I think he can offer a ton of value early in the NFL. And then the later pick for the New York Jets, Zach Bond, Wisconsin edge defender that could play off-ball linebacker at the next level, probably a hybrid role. If the Jets get creative with him, I think he can be very, very good. A steal almost, I would say, on day 2. Have a similar role to what Joe Schobert is for the Cleveland Browns. I even also see him in a Kyle Van Noy type of role where you could kind of split edge defender and off-ball linebacker. I think he's a guy, if you get creative with, you get a ton of value out of on day 2.
Yeah, CeeDee Lamb one is obvious why. It's a no-brainer sort of fit for them. Zach Bond, though, they tried to sign Anthony Barr last offseason. He went back to Minnesota. They almost had him signed. Zach Bond is a very similar size, athleticism sort of guy in that he can play off ball, but also can rush the passer. If you want him to, had a 90.9 pass rushing grade this past year. He was pretty damn good at rushing the passer even. So I do think that would be a nice fit for them. He's a guy who the Senior Bowl is going to be huge from. I want to see if he actually, one, plays with the edge defenders, goes one-on-one in the pass rushers, and two, just what he weighs in.
He's going to show up at right? He'd probably do both. Do some one-on-one.
Well, if he shows up at 235, you're not rushing the passer.
True.
You're playing off ball. So yeah, we'll see.
Let's go to the Oakland Raiders at 12. This one, the perfect fit, and if he does fall to 12, Jerry Jeudy at 12 makes a ton of sense. The Raiders need receiver talent. John Gruden said it in the postseason press conference. We need to address the wide receiver position. I don't know if Antonio Brown's coming to Las Vegas. He said he'd buy Derek Carr's house. I think maybe that's an option there, but I think Jerry Jeudy to the Oakland Raiders would be an instant help. He'd be the best receiver on their team by a landslide. And then also the second pick here, Francis Bernard, who's graded very well in coverage for Utah. They've been, the Oakland Raiders have been searching for a good coverage off-ball linebacker since Vietnam, since Rolando McClain. It goes back to where maybe run defense mattered at this point. I think the Oakland Raiders still need help at linebacker. They've tried some one-offs. They've tried some older free agent signings. Derek Johnson was on that team for a cup of coffee. I think Oakland Raiders need like a guy like Francis Bernard or a guy that can at least play coverage.
These two are fairly obvious. Yeah, a coverage linebacker. We joke all the time about the linebackers. When you do something, when we were playing flag and you do something bad, you were
Tahir Whitehead.
Tahir Whitehead, yeah. So it was not great there, and it's been not great, like you said. The Jeudy one, the wide receiver class, I don't know how to make heads or tails of where it's going to end up. In terms of last year, they got pushed so far down from where I expected them to be going. I thought DK could go in the top 20. I thought A.J. Brown was a lock for a first-round pick. All of a sudden, they're all the way down mid, late second round. So no clue where this wide receiver class ends up. But at number 12, it's not crazy to think you could have a choice of one of those top two guys at that point still.
that would be very interesting if if CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy do slip out of the top 10, because I think a lot of teams could jump at that. But however, if you're able to grab one of those players on the back end there, I think that's going to be something you sprint the card in for. Let's go to 13, the Indianapolis Colts, another receiver, T. Higgins of Clemson going with the early pick, and then Jordan Love. If he does slip into day 2, I think this is very, very smart. Jacoby Brissett, not the answer, not the long-term solution. Frank Reich propped him up for as long as he could, but it's time to bring in a quarterback that can maybe play above expectation, maybe reach a ceiling that you need to win in the NFL. Jordan Love is that.
Yeah, I mean, you can do worse than Jacoby Brissett, but also you can do much, much better. And I think you're going to have to take some shots at doing much better at that position here in the upcoming draft. I don't think Herbert is the guy I'd be taking that shot on at 13. It just seems high to me for what we've seen from him throughout his career. I'd much rather get a guy like T. Higgins, who I feel very good about translating to the NFL, and is basically what they wanted Devin Funchess to be in that offense when they added him, with some big playability as well. And then the Love pick, like I said, owning that Redskins second rounder was a fleece of a trade that they made last year to get the 34th overall pick in this draft from that will be huge. And that's kind of the range I see Jordan Love going, is the late first, early second, and he's has developmental tools to where that could be your guy in the future.
14, Tampa Bay Buccaneers are taking offensive tackle Josh Jones of Houston, a guy that's going to be at the Senior Bowl, has a huge opportunity to impress scouts there. I think he's going to continue to rise up boards. He's going to be a guy that everyone's mocking in the teens of mock drafts moving forward. And then also as his later pick, Ashton Davis, former high hurdler, the track star. The guy has a ton of range for Cal. I think he had a very good game against Oregon. I think if you want to watch Ashton Davis turn on the game against Oregon, I think that was an impressive game for him. He's also willing to hit, which I think when you mention former high hurdler, former track star, you kind of get reservations about is he soft, but no. I do think he's a hard-nosed player as well, a guy with range that can hit. I think he's a guy that fits in the NFL. Yeah,
we've been fans of him, mocked him as high as first, but I mean, he could last to the mid-second. That would be ideal for them. But the offensive line is the one where Bruce Arians' offense, deep drops, deep downfield passing concepts, you cannot afford to let that O-line take any sort of step back. And DeMar Dotson, 34 years old, an impending free agent, I think you just have to address that tackle position with, Donovan Smith being fine on the other side, not good by any means, but fine. You need some quality play there still at the tackle position. Josh Jones, for my money, would provide that.
I think a target for Tampa Bay, too, if Anthony Costanzo doesn't retire, is Anthony Costanzo in the offseason. Bring in somebody that can act.
A lot of money.
We say this every time, though. Yes, they need to address the tackle position, but Josh Jones, even if as good as Josh Jones is going to be, is not going to be great as a rookie, maybe not even fantastic in year 2. Sure. I think if Tampa Bay wants to hold up and continue to keep, Flamus Winston going, they're going to need to bring an offensive tackle that can be good
they want to.
in year 1.
The Bruce Arians quote that if we can win with him, we can win with a lot of guys.
Was such a accurate quote, but also so hot. It was crazy. If we can win with James Winston, we can win with any. That was good. Denver Broncos at 15. Let's go to the next fit here. Isaiah Simmons of Clemson, Vic Fangio's defense. Sign me up. Just sign me up.
Yeah, we've talked about this one a lot. That one's just Fangio with a weapon like that. Whoa, too perfect. Yeah. Like, if you're a football fan, you should want to see that.
I want to see it in Martindale, too. Martindale apparently getting some head coaching options. I think that would be another good defense to see Isaiah Simmons in. But then the later pick for the Denver Broncos at 15 here, it would be Paulson Adebo of Stanford, a guy that has played well at times. I think he started off the year very good, but he's also got burnt a handful of times. I think you said it was sloppy feet, right?
If you're playing press man with Paulson Adebo, you're doing it wrong. Let him play in off coverage and let him look at the quarterback and the receiver and let him make plays. He's a guy you're going to give up. His
feet get tangled, and he struggles with that.
Going to give up some big plays down the football field, but he's also going to pick off 4+ passes a year probably for his career. He's just that type of player. Those type of instincts, extremely long, great at the catch point. 32 combined picks and pass breakups in 2 years at Stanford. That's pretty good.
Atlanta Falcons at 16. First pick here, Christian Fulton, the guy that you should be playing press man with at the next level. And then Trey Smith, interior offensive lineman of Tennessee, has had some health issues. But, I mean, if Trey Smith can, stay healthy at the next level, I mean, this could be a very good player in the NFL.
Yeah, they have second-rounder Isaiah Oliver. He was a starter this past year. It's similar to the Eagles conversation. Yes, you started a guy who was a high draft pick. Did he play well? No.
Desmond Trufant's only getting older, too.
Yeah. Well, Desmond Trufant's fine on one side, but you play in the South. You play in the NFC South. You play against Jameis Winston, heaving the ball. If you play against Drew Brees, carving people up.
Kyle Allen.
Need to. And it's Kyle Allen. But, you need cornerbacks. Go get you one of the top guys. Christian Fulton's on the board. I'd be hard-pressed to pass that up. And then interior offensive line's still a mess. I mean, they signed James Carpenter this year, and he was awful. Like that whole two guys that they drafted in the first round last year, even if they take massive steps forward, are still not going to fix that offensive line. You need more talent in there. Trey Smith, huge, much different player down the stretch. I think from something like week 4 on, he was the second highest graded guard in all the country. Second round, third round, that's probably where I'd target Trey Smith.
I'd strongly encourage all those that are interested in Christian Fulton to watch every snap of that Alabama game, because I think he went against Ruggs a ton, and I think you saw a lot of what a very fast, crafty release receiver can do against Christian Fulton, but it was like back and forth the entire game. I think it was one of the better games for Christian Fulton, because I think he goes against a lot of bad receivers in the SEC. I mean, he has a couple matchups where he just wins outright, but that Henry Muggs matchups, I think, exposed a couple things with him, but then also you see how he can bounce back and how he can recover, a lot of recovery speed in that one. I think that game is a game to watch.
And we've been pumping, what's his face's tires, the freshman, Derek Stingley.
Yeah.
Derek Stingley's tires over the course of the year. Stingley had something like 90 targets on the year. Fulton was only in the 50s. He had 40 fewer targets than Derek Stingley did, and he played left cornerback. Fulton did for the majority of the season. Stingley on the right side. You, as most right-hand quarterbacks, you're going to throw to the left cornerback more. So they not only didn't throw to him more, and when they did throw to him, they didn't do a lot of success. So
I think that's why it's really important in the evaluation too, to watch more than just the targets, because I think you see a lot when you watch more than just the targets, see how they do against, because more often than not, like you said, they're throwing the left side, but I think that you got to go and watch those routes too. Dallas Cowboys at 17. Let's speed through this here. Grant Delpit of LSU, the early pick. I think this is going to be mocked to the Dallas Cowboys a ton, and then you also have Brycen Hopkins, the tight end of Purdue, going a little bit later. I know Trevor Sikkema of the Draft Network was a big fan of Brycen Hopkins. He's struggled a bit from a drops standpoint, but I think Grant Delpit is the fit I like the most here.
I mean, Grant Delpit, not a ton of safety needy teams towards the top of the draft. So I think he could feasibly slip. Cowboys definitely qualify as safety needy, I'd say. Just any sort of playmaker on that defense too, since they obviously might be losing Byron Jones this offseason as well. So some talent along that defense. He is a playmaker. I think he can be a playmaker right off the bat. Now he's going to miss some tackles. You're going to have to live with that, but I think he has that sort of ability. The Hopkins one's interesting, though, to me, because he has field stretching ability at tight end position. Now he's not – the hands is an issue, but compared to Jason Witten, who maybe won't drop a pass but isn't going to get open past 5 yards on the football field.
The opposite of field stretching ability?
He has field shrinking ability.
Yes.
He literally, it looks tighter on the football field, and Jason Witten's there. So it would be...
I think Boog creates more separation than Jason Witten on the football field. Prove me wrong. Does better after the catch at the lead.
Boog in the seat.
The Mobile. The Boog Mobile runs a better crossing route than Jason Witten.
Yeah. But, Brycen Hopkins, just any sort of, like I said, field stretching ability in that Cowboys offense will help.
I think Grant Delpit, too, just adding to do you think they're going to retain Byron Jones? I think they have to, but I think he could be the odd man out
got him and
in
Cooper
I know. And they literally can't let Amari Cooper go. They traded a first-round pick for him. It can't be a 1.5-year rental. I don't know. It's interesting what the Dallas is going to do this offseason. I think Grant Delpit, though, would be one of the smarter ones. Let's go 18. Pittsburgh
probably
Steelers.
Have given Zeke $90 million is probably what they shouldn't have done.
Early pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Troy Dye of Oregon, a guy that's played very well in coverage, rangy, always attacking the ball. I think he's a physical guy. I mean, hard-nosed dude. I think linebacker position's interesting. You want guys that are high energy like that, frenetic, that can kind of always be around the line of scrimmage. And I think Troy Dye, good in coverage, athletic enough to stick with people. I think he's a guy.
Yeah, I'll say Dye is interesting. Dye, I love the fit because he is almost the opposite end of good coverage linebackers of Devin Bush in terms of Bush, extremely fast, can stick with anyone. Not a lot of not a lot of length, not a lot of height. Only under 6 foot tall. Dye doesn't have those freakish physical tools in terms of speed, straight line speed, but 6'4", very long, can play press against tight ends. You almost have you can almost play matchups with them in terms of when you're playing.
Testing will be interesting for him.
Bush can guard your running back, Dye on a tight end, and that's perfect matchup for both of them in terms of what they do best. So Troy Dye. Obviously, just anyone in there to replace Mark Barron would be an upgrade. Too.
Mark Barron has been rough this year. The later fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers is Josh Uche of Michigan, a guy that has won as a pass rusher a ton this year. I think if you watch his reps closely, though, he does win with a lot of inside moves. He doesn't win a ton outside. You don't see a ton of variety in his pass rush wins, but there's some raw tools there that people are going to want to jump on.
So the Steelers have been one of the toughest teams to mock for in the past couple of years because they don't have super glaring needs. Like they have a fairly complete roster. Now, they might not be great at every single position, but they don't have needs along the roster. But they do have some guys hitting free agency this year, Javon Hargrave being one. Bud Dupree being another, some big names that they'll have to resign. If I were to pick between
you think
the two,
they have to resign Bud Dupree?
I was going to say, if I would pick between the two, I'd re-sign Javon Hargrave. So at that point, that's why I said Josh Uche makes sense for them in Michigan. I don't think he's going to be a first-rounder at his size, shade under 250. But stunt a lot with their edge guys in Pittsburgh. He's great on that, has that speed and athleticism to get home quickly on stunts and can play coverage as well, which they ask them to do a lot in that defense. So that's why it's a good fit.
I think there's an article coming up on PFF.com.
But also,
that
and the Steelers don't have a first rounder again. These next three teams don't have first rounders, so that's the third round sort of Uche, I think, could make sense.
I think an article that has to come out on PFF.com is looking at Bud Dupree's rise this year because he's graded a lot better. He's played better. He's better pass rush win rate, but has struggled a ton in previous years. I think we need to look at kind of dive into that.
Feels like to me, remember when like Nick Perry had that breakout year for the Packers, and where it's like. It just doesn't seem like it's
recency bias is going to have them throw like $50 million at the guy. But
I would just be so wary to do that.
I agree. Let's go to 19, Chicago Bears. They don't have a first-round pick, but the early pick for them, Bradley Anae of Utah, a guy that's not going to blow the doors off you from an athleticism standpoint. This isn't Brian Burns, but a very technical, polished prospect that I think offers value very early, in my opinion. I think I've seen some mocks to the Ravens. I think he'd be a very interesting player for the Baltimore Ravens defense. And the second guy, I'm going to go out and say this. This guy might be one of my favorite players in the NFL draft that is not going to go in round one. Logan Sternberg of Kentucky has some of the Stenberg. I always call him Sternberg.
I know. I want it's like Sternberger last year.
Logan Stenberg of Kentucky is one of the nastiest, meanest players. He is so full. I was watching a lot of Lynn Bowden, and I think he just pops off the tape. He's just burying kids left and right. And then Logan Stenberg will be at the Senior Bowl. I think he's gonna. I'm not gonna. I'm putting over under at 0.5, maybe 1, but he's gonna get in a fight or two. I mean, he's got to be. He's one of those players.
I was gonna say, I think Stenberg led the FBS in pancakes that had like no impact on the play. Like he doesn't pancake the guy like when the running back's running past him. He was pancaking him when the running back's like 10 yards downfield.
Which you have to respect.
And he's like still trying to drive this D lineman into the dirt.
Pancakes matter.
That's. I mean, offensive line coaches in the NFL. They're going nuts for that shit. So, but the edge rusher, like no first round pick, the chances of you getting a guy in the second round who is immediately going to be an upgraded quarterback is just. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't think that's where you address it. Deep quarterback free agency or trade market, that's where you address it if you're the Chicago Bears. And so at that point, just get someone across from Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack is doing a lot on his own off the edge there, and the teams can game plan for him and chip and that sort of stuff, and they're not making them pay with another edge rusher. Leonard Floyd, just not that guy. 39 pressures this past year on 442 pass rushing snaps. That's
bad.
Not good. Not good whatsoever. So address it. Get someone else in there, even if it's just for a third down role. Bradley Anae, after the first round, is probably going to be your best bet in terms of immediate impact.
That'd be a great second-round pick for the Chicago Bears. Let's go to 20 here, Los Angeles Rams. Early pick. Tyler Biadasz of Wisconsin, later pick Darrell Taylor of Tennessee. Talk to me about Biadasz first, because he's a guy not necessarily took a step back this year, but I think he had an opportunity to really cement himself as a top pick in this class. But I think maybe shifting to that day 2 range after this year.
Yeah, he just doesn't have that raw power that you want, and then out of an interior offensive lineman. He's not a mover. He's not a people mover, but he's very technically sound. I think he's very quick off the line of scrimmage and a very good fit for outside zone teams. Ergo, Los Angeles Rams, they've missed a lot in terms of just that interior offensive line fell apart. And they're not going to be able to, I would guess, address the tackle position this year with Andrew Whitworth, hitting free agency. They're probably not going to get a guy at 20.
How bad is that offensive line going to be next year? Our latest offensive line rankings that dropped today on PFF.com had him worse than the Bengals at 31.
You either have to sign a free agent tackle, which they really don't have a ton of cap space, or I don't know what they're going to do at tackle position, but
I think if they can bring back C.J. Anderson, have him put on a little bit, a couple, like maybe 10 or 15 more pounds.
He doesn't have the length to play tackle. He'd be an interior guy also, but yeah.
All right, neither does Jonah Williams. All right, here we are. Let's go to college football playoff breakdown. That's going to be the next segment here. That was great, by the way, on the draft fits there. I think we have to continue to do more of the draft fit stuff because I think it gives you more of an opportunity than just a first round mock to get some more fits and players tied to certain teams. I think there are obvious fits that we're going to see all draft season long in the top 5, but as you get into like the second and third round and talk about players that they could attack in the later rounds is important, especially for the Bears fan bases, the Rams, the Steelers that don't have a first round pick. Talk about my team too. I agree with that. I think they need some help there. Let's go to the college football playoff breakdown. We're going to talk about some top performers here. We already touched on them a little bit, but just give me the chef's kiss finish here on Joe Burrow and just how incredible that game was for him.
Yeah, I mean, it was spectacular. And we, saw it coming. It was just, you knew it was going to happen. He was going to show up and absolutely bury Oklahoma's defense. He buried Alabama's defense. He buried Florida's defense. I had people telling me, you're sleeping on Oklahoma's defense. No, you're sleeping on Joe Burrow, not realizing that this guy is a different caliber of quarterback than anything we've seen before in college football. So, yeah, it wasn't out of this world perfect football. Like we've seen more perfect games, but it was pretty damn close.
Yep. Absolutely. Let's go to Justin Jefferson, a very polarizing prospect that I think some people are mocking in the first round. Some people, Tom McShay has him in the first overall in his draft board. I think 17 or something along those lines. What's funny is we're texting back and forth during that game. Justin Jefferson is a name I brought up to Mike as a guy that I kind of liked when he was playing more outside receiver at LSU. A guy that, inconsistent but created separation at times. I liked a couple of his contested catches, and then he moves to the slot and he blows up from a production standpoint. Yeah. People are jumping on the bandwagon. The hype train's rolling. Flags are being flown, but we text every time they play. He gets so much of his production against off coverage, holes in zone, and some of that, so much of that is just schemed production. It's hard to call it like wide receiver win.
And the thing is, he's been, I don't want to say unsustainably good. He is incredible. His ball skills are great, and that's why we're still fairly high on him. I'd probably say he is a day 2 guy for us at this point. That's still being high on a wide receiver, but I'm not going to get aboard the first round hype train because, like you mentioned, so many of it is. So much of it has been not necessarily separation driven production, and he's just one of the biggest beneficiaries, probably the biggest beneficiary of the sort of change in scheme there at
the improvement
LSU
of Joe Burrow. I mean, ball placement for him has been fantastic.
His numbers have been hugely beneficiary from that, but he has been very good in contested situations this season. I'm not going to take that away from him whatsoever. His ball skills are great.
I'm working on a piece right now for PFF.com that should come out Thursday, looking at Justin Jefferson a little bit closely, looking at his production at outside receiver in 2018, and also his production in the slot, looking at that difference between what he did against tight man coverage in pretty much in all of 2018, and then what he did against a lot of this off zone in 2019. Looking at this 2-year numbers, looking at 2-year total, 2018, 2019 combined, he ranks 9th in yards per route run from the slot among all qualifying college wide receivers. He ranks 10th in yards per route run from outside. So there is production there at outside. However, he does have a very high percentage of contested targets, and he has more yards on crossing routes and in routes than any receiver in the country. And a lot of those are coming against off zone, and it's stuff where he's finding these open holes. I will say this, though, and I think this is a legitimate pro when you're evaluating a receiver. Craftiness against zone to find those holes, to put yourself in a position to get open and create an open window for your quarterback matters a ton. I think it's something that you have to value, put in that pro side. Not as valuable as the separation, I would say, but still very valuable. Justin Jefferson, interesting guy. I agree with Mike, not buying the first round hype for him, but I think day 2, day 3, he's a guy that I think could instantly be a very good slot receiver at the next level, just knowing the experience he has and what he's done with Joe Burrow. Next here, other top performer, Jalen Hurts.
Not a top performer.
Not a top performer.
Notable performers, we'll say. Yes. And like I said, it was nothing in rhythm for Hurts, basically, in this game. And then once it got away from him, it gets away from him. You're so many throwaways, so many sacks. Like, he's just not going to run a quick passing offense in the NFL. You're going to have to live with that. I mean, this highlighted a lot of his inconsistencies, and it's what you worry about with him transiting to the next level.
All right, next guy here. Let's move forward from Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts, too, a ton of people want to get on board. I think being on radio hits, I think some of the guys asked me, like, Jalen Hurts, he's going to be a guy that gets an opportunity now that the NFL knows Lamar Jackson will work. They are not even close to the same athlete.
Yeah, I had one of my buddies text me. He's like, is there any chance Jalen Hurts gets drafted to play another position? I'm like, I don't think he's athletic enough to play another position.
Yeah, you've said that too. You think Joe Burrow's faster than Jalen Hurts. You've said that to me
I think
off camera, and I think you could
Joe
be right.
Burrow
I mean, watching that game,
faster 40 than Jalen Hurts.
Watching that game, I think there's something there.
Like, if he'd play another position, it'd probably be like H-back, tight end. Like, he's not I don't know. He's not fast enough for me to be like a running back or switch to safety or I don't know, whatever else you want to play.
CeeDee Lamb had a splash play in that game against LSU. I think he's the guy that is battling with Jerry Jeudy for the wide receiver 1 slot on PFF's consensus board. But as we get closer, I'm starting to lean the size, the ball skills, what he's able to do down the field. He's very good after the catch. I think he's going to run well, obviously. CeeDee Lamb might be, and he's doing it outside receiver, beating some of those coverages. Though in the Big 12, you don't run into a lot of teams that play press man, and I think I would like to see some of those reps. But CeeDee Lamb, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the catch against Stingley was pretty sick.
Yes.
It was. Stingley's got good ball skills, has length to get to the catch point, and Lamb just sunned him. So that's the type of reps that you don't really see a ton from Jeudy. That gets you worried because you don't see Judy's either wide open or they're not throwing on the ball usually in that Alabama offense. So that's what we've seen from Lamb that we really haven't seen from Jeudy. But yeah, I mean, Lamb, not a ton of question marks at this point from him.
Best 2-year yards per out run average from the slot, though, does belong to Jerry Jeudy over the last 2 years. He's been very good from the slot. Second guy would be Tyler Johnson of Minnesota, while I still have those slot numbers pulled up. Let's go to the next guy, Isaiah Simmons. Dude, I got to admit, I was up late last night. Okay, your mom made me leave her house early, and I had to go back home, and I was watching some Isaiah.
She goes to bed early nowadays.
I know, and it's weird, and it's a change I have to adjust to. But Isaiah Simmons, man, is such an impressive player in the positions he can play, and I think ESPN put up that graphic that was great where he showed outside corner, slot corner. But so this is the thing I had with Derwin James. He could play a ton of positions, which I think speaks to that positional versatility. But I also think there's this role versatility that Isaiah Simmons and Derwin James bring to the table, and that he can, in addition to playing edge defender, can rush the passer and play the run. I think he had a handful of great plays where in these different roles, in these different alignments, doing so well in Clemson. And he might be bigger, faster, maybe even more athletic than Derwin James. This guy is such a rare breed, in my opinion.
I don't think he's more athletic than Derwin James. He's going to go out there and say that. He is fast. I don't think he has those movement, the change of direction skills that Derwin James is rare. I struggle to compare anyone to Derwin James, but Isaiah Simmons is also rare.
Yeah.
This dude's a freak. Legitimately was catching up to J.K. Dobbins on that long touchdown run, which, this is a linebacker catching up to a, probably a running back going to run the 4.4. So Isaiah Simmons can do some special things athletically, and they play what I think that Clemson defense where the sort of NFL game's going in terms of you want 4 or 5 guys that can line up box, slot, deep, and do all those roles in coverage.
Like the Ravens.
Any given play, any given down. And just quarterbacks don't know where they're going to go. You can have a guy like him line up, on the line of scrimmage, and then all of a sudden runs to the deep middle safety.
What those
and do different things that you couldn't do, 20 years ago because you had these such defined roles in terms of where a guy was going to line up. I think that's going the way of the dodo in terms of you just need guys that can go anywhere on your defense at any time.
What those defenses are doing, in my opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, that's how I'm looking at it, is they're just trying to get more athletes on the football field. And I think with the Baltimore Ravens, the way they're doing that is they have 2 very big, literally fat defensive tackles that can 2-gap all day long up front, and that allows them to have some of those versatile players play on the back end and have a guy that can play the safety and linebacker. I think that's exactly what Clemson's doing as well. I think you put more guys that don't weigh over 250 pounds on the football field. Do your best to do it.
That's what I was getting at with the Derek Brown fit to the Jaguars. It's like when you have undersized linebackers, or when you have guys that you don't want to worry about them in run defense.
Yeah.
There's only a handful of defense tackles that are going to really affect the pass game in and game out. So if you don't have one of those guys, get you someone who can just absolutely plug the run and make sure that the guys behind them are clean, don't have to take on blocks. You don't have to worry about their run defense. All they can do is worry about coverage, and then you can do a lot of different things with them. When you have a guy like Isaiah Simmons who can, like I said, line up in the box, but also then all of a sudden he goes and plays safety, and the guy who was lined up at safety comes down and plays linebacker, you can run different coverages you can fool quarterbacks more so nowadays than you ever could before with those sort of players.
Let's move on to the next player. Talk to me about Parnell Motley, a guy that plays the ball in front of him very well, but maybe
we saw it twice. Two hitch routes he just absolutely throttled down on. Was it against Chase that he got both those, and they were pretty nice pass breakups. He did allow big play over top, but he is. I think that's where he's limited. Is just when you are 101 straight line speed. I just think he might run the 4.6s. That's where
really that bad.
I think he might be. I always struggle.
He needs to sign with an agency that can help him get into the 4.5s. Because if he's even thinking about 4.6s, that's a problem.
Yeah, but the speed is the issue with him. But he is real good within the first 10 yards at outside corner.
How valuable is that, though? I think every year.
I know.
And here's the thing. So, and this might be kind of rude, but a lot of draft pundits watching a ton of film on broadcast. These cornerbacks that play so many things up in the 10 yards and dominate, it's easy to fall in love with them. It's easy. Like, I think I kind of fell for it a little bit when early in the draft process last year for Hamp Cheevers. He played he played things in front of him so well, and I was like, oh man, he's breaking on slants. This dude's a stud.
I love Mike Hughes because he was so good around that sort of stuff. But
and DeAndre Baker too had a lot of those plays, and I think then you turn on the tape and you watch all of his targets of 10+ air yards down the football field, and you're like, oh my gosh, he's getting toasted every single time, and that's where those routes are more valuable, and there's those snaps for the cornerbacks are way more valuable. If you lose those, it's a problem.
Like the different if you're really good at the line of scrimmage, you can turn a 5-yard gain to a 0-yard gain.
Mm-hmm.
If you're really good downfield, you turn a 30-yard gain to a 0-yard gain.
Yeah, you turn a touchdown into a 0-yard gain, which is way more valuable.
Exactly.
I mean, you see Jamel Dean do that a ton. I mean, he's got a good enough speed to be down the football field, limiting those big plays. Mm-hmm. Limiting big plays is very important at cornerback position. It can't really get understated. Talk about a guy who can. Jeffrey Okudah, 4 forced incompletions against Clemson. I think he played
advertised.
Yeah, as advertised. He's a very good. I love when he's targeted. Like when Jeffrey Okudah is targeted, he does such a good job of limiting what the receiver can do.
They're that Clemson offense for the vast majority of the season was like an outside. They're kind of the opposite of LSU. Is they worked down the football field and outside. They did not get a lot of their passing production down the football field and outside in this game. It was screens over the middle of the field, that sort of stuff, because of Jeffrey Okudah and the Ohio State cornerback. So he was very good. 10 targets in the game, only 47 yards on those 10 targets. That's a very good number with those 4 forced incompletions, like you said.
Let's go to the last guy here. I just want to touch on him. Chase Young, a very bad game. 5 total pressures. 75.8 passer grade. Just doesn't make any sense. No, Chase Young did not play well, but play well compared to what he does every other week.
He was getting chipped.
Exactly.
They knew Chase Young not going to completely disrupt our game plan that we're going for. They made it a point, and
if they didn't, it would have been bad.
And he still won a few times even after he was chipped. So it was pretty. It was.
I think I saw some Ohio State fans that say he completely got silenced and all this stuff. It's like, dude, they legitimately prepared an entire game plan to limit him, and he still earned.
I mean, the Trevor Lawrence running stuff was basically to sort of get his eyes so they can't just take off and fire off on the pass.
Trevor Lawrence is faster than Jalen Hurts.
Basically, change what they're looking at.
That guy's got some serious speed.
Dude, he is.
He looked pretty fast down the sideline. The Lamar Jackson jokes were funny, but I mean, he wasn't slow. That was some speed there.
Yeah, that was.
What can't he do? What can't Trevor Lawrence do? That's going to do it for the 2-for-1 Drafts podcast. Remember, you can find us on YouTube on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We are going to have a Thursday podcast this week. I know we didn't have one last week. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. Thanks again. Looking forward to Thursday. This has been Austin Gayle, Mike Renner, 2-for-1 Drafts.